Hi, this is Jordan.
And I'm Bryan, and you're listening to The Quality Varies.
How are you?
I am fantabulous. I don't know.
Bryan, I need you to keep me honest today. My main goal is to not leave this mic. I've been moving around a lot in the last couple episodes, making my audio sound all kind of funky.
Oh, good.
I gotta stop. It's very easy to. I just want a longer boom arm, so I can lean back.
Yeah, I want a boom arm. Have you seen?
When I get a new.
Look at this. See this? My microphone is sitting on an upturned wicker basket on top of my desk.
What you mean to say, Bryan,
I'm a consummate professional.
is both of us have the highest of production value setups involved. When I get a new boom arm, then this boom arm becomes your boom arm.
Wow.
Does that make you somewhat excited?
Oh, so much.
Yeah.
I almost actually bought one at work last week, and then it got sold out from under me. So
Boom arms can be, you can find them for a steal because
this one was 50 cents.
I would mark that as a steal.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure it would have worked, but for 50 cents, I was gonna take a shot.
You could work that in the budget. You could convince your wife.
I might be able to squeeze some room in the budget.
You were talking about some what are they called? Mods? Firearm mods? Scopes?
That's sure.
What would you call them?
Parts? Mods? Maybe
module?
accessories.
Accessories.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what most people call them.
You were telling me about some expensive accessories.
Yes.
And again, yeah, I told you this many years ago. I have no problem with other people that have guns, firearms. But you given me one more reason that I now care less about firearms.
Well, if you got a friend, like I have a friend, I actually have quite a few friends actually, but if you know some people, it's not that bad. I got some great deals from our buddy Steven, old Steven.
Yep. I love having friends that have firearms.
Oh yeah.
That is like the best of both worlds.
Hey, no, it's not. The best is just having it.
Which, I don't know.
No, I do.
I've because of friends, I have shot some fairly interesting weaponry. And yeah, but then I don't have to maintain it. I just go and use the thing, and then I give it back to them, and then they have to deal with it. My biggest interaction with firearms is when I tell clients to please remove their firearms before they let their home be showed, as to not inflict chaos into the world.
Yeah. Just lock them up. They don't need to be gone,
I walked in.
Right?
I mean, we always recommend them being gone, but yes, if you have a gun safe or just a safe, then that's fine. I walked into a home one day and I counted at least 50 cases just lying around the home.
That's my kind of house.
And
they make furniture, right? With
do they?
Yeah, there's companies, plural, that make custom-made furniture to stow all of your guns all over your house. There's side tables, there's sofa tables, I'm pretty sure there's dining tables and couches and TV stands, headboards.
Did you ever watch the TV show
beds.
Psych?
Yes. Like
So
a handful of episodes.
okay. So Lassiter
Yes.
the police officer.
Lassie.
He is well known throughout the series of having guns hidden everywhere. And there's an episode where he is like wrongly convicted of something, so like he has his weapons taken away, and like the police department goes to his house and they take weapons there, but it's like another corrupt police officer. And the whole joke is like Lassie has guns everywhere.
Yeah.
And the end of the episode is like Sean distracts the bad guy long enough for Lassie to reach into his popcorn bowl and pull out a handgun from there.
Terrible. Popcorn would be terrible for your gun.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it would be.
And bits everywhere. Ugh.
Bryan, this couldn't be farther from what we're talking about today.
If you gave me enough time, I could tie it in, but
I don't. We assuredly don't have that amount of time.
That would be a mental exercise.
Last time we got into it on religion.
We sure did. And then you brought up a banger of a topic with like 15 minutes left in recording, and that was
I apologize.
Very awesome of you.
Well, in my head, it was just like an isolated thing, and then as soon as you repeated it, and you're like, "This is the crux of all like human suffering," and then I was like, "No, it's not." Yes.
Oh yeah. Hey.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yes, in the Vegas of
so I apologize.
It's all right. We've had a few days to sleep it off. So we're just going to leave that one there. Maybe if the fan base, using that word very loosely, desires, we can bring that back up. But today we are going to wrap up our conversation on spirituality.
Yes, indeed. So what? I mean, what's the main difference to you, Bryan?
So, in the most basic of terms, religion is an organization or a club or a union, a fraternity of people who have a similar understanding of truth and work together to better understand truth through their agreed upon lens. Spirituality is much less concrete and defined. I think spirituality is your individual, personal relationship with truth and higher power. Yeah.
And I was looking through a couple websites, and I don't necessarily want to go directly off of what these guys are saying. I'd love to mainly base it off of our experiences. But one of the words that was said in connection to religion was institutionalized. Do you feel like that resonates at all?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Institution, fraternity, union. Yeah. I mean,
a fraternity.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It is. Religions are groups of people who agree on spirituality to some degree.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that works.
And then spirituality, I don't know. I see it in some of these, and it would be the same word that I would come up with, but the word that for spirituality would be connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I said relationship, but I think connection That's a perfect
Yeah.
word, you know.
In that way, I think relationship and connection are going after the same, the same thing.
Yeah. We're
A
just
relationship with or a connection with something greater.
yeah. Yeah, something greater. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, for me, I think that's where maybe some people take issue, but I really just, I think that's a part that I love about it, in that I don't mind. Um, I don't know. I didn't think about this beforehand, so I'm paranoid on how I'm saying this. I don't mind necessarily what people are spiritual about. There can be some weird things that people are into. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But most times, if somebody's just trying to have a spiritual connection with something greater, that's usually going to better them and provide something in their life that will improve it.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Um,
did we talk about this on the show, or was it with you, or was I with somebody else? When I was talking about intention, in regards to spirituality.
Maybe it doesn't ring a bell for me. Why don't you reiterate?
So, what I mean by that is, as long as you are trying to help people, you will do good in the world.
Yeah.
So, whatever your spiritual focus is, as long as you are honestly endeavoring to punch your microphone.
Stop. You didn't have to. I was going to silence it. You didn't have to bring it up.
As long as you're honestly trying to help people, that is going to bring growth for you, and it's going to bring light to other people. So as long as you're not worshiping death or blood or the devil or evil in any form,
Yeah.
it's gonna be beneficial for you personally, I think.
Yeah.
I've heard of people whose higher power was a billboard on a hill, just off the highway. That was the highest good that they could conceptualize, was a billboard, and so that's what they sent their prayers to.
Yeah. I'm sure the billboard appreciated it. Especially if they prayed by calling the number that was on the billboard.
Dang it, man. I was not prepared for that joke. That was a good one.
I'm just thinking Brandon, previous guest on the show, talked about his, he may have mentioned it, where he thought about making some jokey billboard signs. And now I just picture somebody like hands raised in the air in front of him, just a 30 by 40 image of him up on the highway.
Just most prayed to lawyer in Las Vegas.
That would get some attention.
That would get something, right?
Yeah.
Wow. We should be businessmen.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. So are you saying that even that is going to, versus nothing, even that is going to bring them good?
It seemed to be doing actual good. And I can't remember it's been some time since I talked to this guy, but it seems that the billboard was the starting point. And, after he moved along the spiritual road, that the billboard wasn't good enough. It wasn't transcendent enough because...
Now, see, that's interesting.
Because the top of the hill was attainable now, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about a guy who was, too poor to kill himself. He couldn't afford a bullet to kill himself. He was at the bottom of despair. The absolute worst place you can possibly imagine. And he saw a billboard that had lights on it, and that became the thing that he fixated on that was unattainable to him. That was more goodness and light than he could conceptualize at that point. Just a literal bright thing was literal, the literal pinnacle of light in his life was a shining billboard at night.
Yeah.
We're talking about a dark, bad place. But that was enough to get him out of that place. And then he started, from there he kind of, if I remember right, started moving down a path of more traditional spirituality.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that because it's, in the moment, somebody might, if he decided to share that with somebody, the reaction may not be the most positive, or they're, if that person that heard it had the best intentions, they might still not respond in the way that might be helpful to that person, because hearing about that in that moment, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, on, after the fact, you can go back and look at it was unconventional, sure, but at that point in time, literally all he needed was anything.
Yeah.
He just needed to look somewhere that was not himself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was as good of a stepping stone as any.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's important. It had to be outside of himself. So this is a fairly constant phenomenon. Everybody's ego, everybody has this aspect of them that's egocentric.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about this on the show, that you are a singular person and view the world through a singular lens. And so every experience you've had is had through this experience of singleness, loneness.
Yeah.
And so that's just baked in to human experience, that self is separate from the world or the universe or the cosmos, whatever. But sometimes we get caught up in viewing everything through the egocentric lens. And we rely on that lens too much, where say spirituality, praying to something, is an exercise in looking beyond your own experience. Because
and putting weight on something other than my own thoughts or my own experience or my own opinions.
Right, exactly. Because by praying to something, that's implicitly acknowledging that there's someone or something outside of you that is beyond your ability to understand. Because people, like, we can understand people, right? I can understand that you have thoughts, and even through my egocentric lens, I understand subconsciously that you also view the world through your egocentric lens. And so I understand that somehow. But I don't understand how God works, or what the flippin' heck infinity is. I cannot understand what eternity is. And so that's an aspect of who I pray to, is eternity.
Can I ask you a super hot take question? Yes. Oh, I'm so blurry.
Yeah, you are. That's what you get for being so far away from your camera.
Sorry, I found if I moved over here, then I could have my microphone right up to me while leaning back.
You lucky dog.
So, can an atheist be spiritual? I think I will answer first, and I think that they absolutely can.
Yes. So that is a very loaded question.
Yep.
I say no. And here's why. Atheism comes from the Greek for without God. Meaning without, theos or deus, which is God, without God.
So no deities.
Right. And spirituality, in any form, I argue that you're worshiping something. Like, that's... Yeah, I mean, even the guy who prayed to a billboard, like, that billboard was in the most basic definition of the word a god to that guy. And so, like, a spiritual atheist, if somebody ever says that they're a spiritual atheist, they're most likely just trying to be edgy and nonconformist. That's my hot take. Like, you're not really an atheist. Like, if you believe in a greater power, a higher power, greater will, the universe has a plan, whatever, however you want to word that, that's what Christians believe too, dude. So, get over yourself. That's my hot take.
Wow. Thank you for shadowing my hot take with your greater hot take. I think they can. I think I will use nature as an example. Mm-hmm. I think one can 100% have a spiritual connection to nature and embrace that. And if that person just so happens to has beliefs that line up with atheism, then I don't think the two are mutually... I don't think one denounces the other. Because in my mind, I am okay with having a separation of deity and God, and like a greater power. So I'll give another example with addiction. Mm-hmm. We won't talk about some of the specifics with the program that I'm in, because that goes against the tradition of that program. But part of the things I said is, for a lot of people in the beginning, It's a spiritual program, and it's about a power greater than myself. And a lot of times, that power that is greater than myself in the beginning might just be the group. And I can I feel completely comfortable saying that somebody might have a spiritual connection with the group and might still be in the position of being a sincere atheist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha.
But that is fully acknowledging that. Basically, that's just me saying that I'm okay with calling it a spiritual connection, even if it's with something that is not a deity. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's where our disagreement is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only real difference there, if I understand you right, is that I would still call the group the god of that belief. But yeah, I don't know. That's just from my understanding of the definitions of deities and higher powers and gods and all that. So whatever.
Yeah. So what are some in your life? Are there any examples that you're willing to bring up as far as maybe times where like there's spirituality that is separate from religion? Or experiences you've seen with others, from others, besides the billboard guy.
The billboard guy. A spiritual experience separate from religion. Yeah, I mean, I want to say yes. I mean, so the thing that I'm struggling with right now is that, like, religion to me also happens outside of the church house. And so, yes, for me, my spirituality is heavily conflated with religion because I view almost all of my spirituality through the lens of my religion.
And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, absolutely not.
Because I think
it works great for me.
Yeah, I think some of the resentments that I had when I was younger was people that had a firm separation of, like, the religion was church on Sundays, mm-hmm, and the religion was not present at any other day or time or place.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I get that. But yeah, so, like, I believe in a very Christian God. There's God the Father, and I believe that He is with me in some sense throughout my life, metaphysically, if you will. And so spiritual experiences I have on Wednesdays I also relate to that same aspect of my life. And so, yes, vaguely, yes to your question. I have had spiritual experiences that were not necessarily related to my religion. However, I believe that
well, and there's the part in our faith.
I will say nearly every single spiritual experience I've had ever in my life is the result of my worshiping my God. in some sense, directly or indirectly, because I have a relationship and a connection with God and Jesus Christ, that I open myself up to spiritual awakenings or spiritual experiences, or I have a proclivity as a result of that connection to view meaningful experiences. That's it. So for me, I believe that because I have faith in God the Father and Jesus Christ, that I have a proclivity to assign their love and intention on spiritual experiences that I have.
And I don't think it's merging or feeling comfortable merging the religion and spirituality, mm-hmm. I don't think is a negative thing. I think in some people, I think it does become a negative thing when stuff that could be positive experiences, but because they don't generally line up with a institutionalized religion's like guidelines, mm-hmm. Get disregarded, mm-hmm. and then that's a if anything, that's a missed opportunity,
right?
At best, but then there's also in our faith, the statement that is said, certainly with energy, is that all good things come from God,
right?
And so having a belief in that, mm-hmm. lets you meld and lets you just have that experience throughout the week, exactly. Every week.
Exactly.
For me, so, and maybe our different takes on religion. So when I think of religion, I think of the rituals, mm-hmm. and I think of the, of the deep doctrine and the ordinances meaning activities. I think I was like 18 before I learned what an ordinance was and a covenant.
Nice.
I had no idea.
That's all right.
Yeah. They would always say like the ordinances and covenants, like, all right, I'm sure I will get those someday. I don't know what they are, but I'm sure I'll get my hands on them.
It's the big bullets.
Yeah.
Ordinance.
So the covenants meaning the promises, and the ordinances meaning the activities or the actions, I guess. And the spirituality is, I just say, my personal connection to God. So my life was a bunch of me growing up was a bunch of me growing resentments over the rituals being done without any connection to God by a bunch of people that were around me. And so for me, maybe to feel safe, I don't know, I haven't really processed that part of it. I'm not too bothered, to do that now, but for me, my personal connection with God, I treat as a separate thing from the rituals, or as a kind of a bonus thing. I get to have that connection with God when I do those things, but whatever the church is doing, I get to, and maybe because of my belief in the Holy Ghost, in our faith, separately, I get to go have my experience, not related to anybody else or what they're saying. I get to go have a spiritual experience between me and my God. And that is spirituality for me. And for me, I separate that. When I look at stuff, I think a lot of different forms of art, I think is kind of a spiritual experience for me that I wouldn't say is necessarily religious. And music is a huge thing for me to have a spiritual experience, and really have an effect on me that sometimes words just don't. Sometimes that's churchy music, sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's heavy metal.
Sometimes it's heavy metal. The Sound of Silence. I mean,
by Disturbed.
Yeah.
That's metal only because a metal band sang it.
Okay, I'm just. It's a. Do not. Okay. This is not the time to throw shade. If you want to have a spiritual
experience listening to metal, I can send you some songs.
Okay. Send me some songs, but I'm not about to sit here talking about a spiritual experience and have you just
I'm not disparaging your experience. I'm disparaging your definition of metal music.
I'm just saying I love The Sound of Silence.
It's
okay?
a great
That's
song.
all I'm saying.
It's a fantastic song. I love it. Simon and Garfunkel themselves said that cover is exactly how they wanted it to be sung.
Yeah, which is, I think, fantastic. I have no problem with it not being... I don't have any problem with it not being metal. That doesn't...
No. I don't either. I was poking fun that you thought that was metal.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Here, when I thought that I was finally starting to understand music categories in my life. And then nature. Just experiences in the world, I would say, is a spiritual experience because for me, it is a direct just connection and experience that I'm having with me and my God. It's not anything to do with these rituals or anything to do with the, this and this church. I'm taking that and, and when I'm giving my lesson on Sunday, I'm certainly talking about those things. So it's not like they are exclusive of each other. But that's kind of what's in my head. And those were some of the thoughts that went into why I wanted to have this discussion, in the first place. I've had a lot of, for some people, a spiritual experience might be going to the gun range. Could you relate to that?
A spiritual experience going to the gun range? I'm not going to say it's impossible. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that.
Okay, mister.
Well. So, okay, let's put a pin in that question. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask for your thoughts on this statement. A spiritual experience is an experience defined by a sensation of coming to a deeper understanding of the truth of a thing or the truth of something, or the sensation of coming to understand some truth. Let's go with that. What do you think about that?
No.
Okay, why not?
I think a spiritual experience can be that, but just I would say is a... Can you say the statement one more time? Because I think there's only one word I would change.
So a spiritual experience is defined by the sensation of coming to an understanding of some piece of truth.
I am personally content with defining a spiritual experience as simply just a sensation of a connection with more than just myself.
Okay. That's a bit too open-ended for me. So here's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
The going to a gun range is in itself not a spiritual experience. Going to the gun range with my friends, I I will admit I've had experiences that I would define as spiritual.
And they're not spiritual just because they were near-death experiences, right?
No,
Yeah,
no. Although there have been some of those.
all right,
No,
all right.
It's the with my friends part. It's with Kevin and Braden.
Yeah.
We are bonding over something that we really, really enjoy. The sensation of like pulling the trigger, feeling the kick against your shoulder, smelling the gunpowder, that thrill of hitting the target, or whatever, all of that wrapped up, and the inner acknowledgement that my two friends there are having an equally good time that I am. Like that, we've talked about natural knowing, I believe.
Sure.
I think you know about natural knowing, right? There's some things that you just know, like.
Is this anything to do with my truth?
No.
I heard Brandon say that the other day. I just wanted to relay that on to you.
No, natural knowing. Well, it's kind of a spiritual experience. It's hard to define. Like you just know it, right? And so it's an experience with truth. Like it was this natural, like subconscious, like deep a knowing, like in my soul, that this good time was shared with my two friends and amplified because it was shared. But like the knowing part is the key. The natural knowing part that it was being shared. That's the experience of truth that I'm trying to get at with, like, in trying to define a spiritual experience in that way.
I mean, I think in that way, I don't think mine is exclusive to yours because I think I think in every situation that I'm having, there is an acknowledgement that I'm probably making.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, some acknowledgement or some deeper understanding or just a deeper resonation that I'm, making with it. Mm-hmm. Another example I want to give, Mr. Fastboy, being on your motorcycle.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
now,
bro.
I know for a fact you have said word for word that it is a spiritual experience being on some of those bikes that you've had over the course of your life.
Yeah.
So what? Okay, first of all, just tell me about that.
Okay. It feels really good.
Okay, well, I set the bar too low. That's on me.
Yes, I do, and I remember the specific ride that I was telling you about. Even. Yeah. I think. That the thing that I came to an understanding of, this might sound corny, but I believe it down to my core, that I was made however many eternities ago.
All right.
To enjoy motorcycles. That's just, it's part of my soul
Okay.
to enjoy
Okay. Okay.
motorcycles.
Okay.
That's the best way I can describe it in English.
So
But
pretty much we're exactly in agreement about spiritual experiences. Is what you're telling me.
we are in agreement. I do think that the acknowledging truth component is important to me. Because because this is why. Because I can feel connection to other things that I wouldn't define as spiritual connections. Um, not to say that connections with other things other than God, are
Yeah.
inherently or mutually exclusive, mutually exclusively not spiritual. But they don't have to be spiritual. Like,
Yeah.
my connection with you is at times spiritual, and at other
Yes.
times it's not. And so
Yeah.
that's why I think the acknowledgement or coming to an understanding of truth is important in my definition of a spiritual experience.
Yeah, because um, I don't want to go over the. We can talk about that in the other show. You brought up a time that you had a spiritual experience while we were um, playing a game together,
Mm-hmm.
and we can talk about it on the other show. But I found that super fascinating,
Mm-hmm.
and what you described is the exact reason why I love playing that game and running that game. But yeah, and I think like for me, like music, my logical
Oh
brain that
yes,
wants to just analyze the crap out of stuff.
yes.
And like even when people are talking and people are having a real like connection, for me, a lot of the time, still to this day, it was certainly worse before rehab, but still to this day, a lot of people when they're just sitting around chatting, they're having a spiritual experience with each other, and I'm just analyzing the group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But man, with music is able to hit me
Mm-hmm.
and affect me in ways that other stuff just can't.
Mm-hmm. Have you listened to Jordan Peterson talk about the Ramones concert he went to?
No.
Okay. Everybody who's listening to the sound of my voice right now, listen to what Jordan just said. Jordan Homer. And then go listen to what Jordan Peterson says about the Ramones concert he went to in college. And if you can find a clip of him talking about it on the Joe Rogan podcast, I recommend that one specifically. Try to find a clip because Joe Rogan.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Joe Rogan has a foul mouth. I'll just say that. So warning if you go listen to that whole podcast. If you're okay with language, I would recommend going to listen to that whole episode. There's just a ton of amazing stuff in there.
Yeah, I'll link the episode and then I'll timestamp it.
Yeah, Jordan and Joe are some of the most amazing thinkers, I think, and I mean, their viewership also attests to that, I think. But yeah. So go listen to that. But yes, just to quickly sum up what Jordan Peterson says about music is it is like music is I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think of the term I want to use. Music is a model of the universe. In the same way that a model airplane shows you what a big airplane looks like in a small scale, music shows you what the universe is like on a small scale. Between the beats, the harmonies, the melodies, the lyrics, the instrumentation, the tempo, the waves of volume, surging crescendos. That is all a sliver of what the universe is made out of. It's all the different things happening at the same time. And no one thing is more important than another thing. In all the things I just described, any piece of music would be incomplete without any of those pieces. Just like the universe, the world we live in, would be incomplete without any one of us in it. It's different. Like we've said before on the show, what we do matters. And at some point in your spiritual journey, you'll probably come to know that on some level. Because it is capital T truth that we have an effect on the world, each other, and that it's incomplete when we aren't there. Well, incomplete is a strong word because people die all the time. That's a natural part of life. But if you're not showing up, that also matters.
What is showing up mean to you for people that haven't had our experiences?
So I was told once that I was a coward because I was hiding. I was hiding behind a personality that I thought other people wanted. And I was told in very clear terms that that was a cowardly act on my part. And that for me to not present a personality that I had constructed and just simply be and act and think how I am and act and think was so much more. And that's what showing up is, I think. I mean, that's how I learned how to show up. To just
For me, it's the way that I think about it is like if somebody were to come and sit down at a meeting and they don't express their opinions, they don't express their disagreements, they don't express the problems they have, they don't express the things that they do agree with and all the good things as well, then both they're not showing up for the people around them, but the important thing that happens first, and then the other people thing is just a natural consequence, is they are not quote unquote showing up for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. It involves.
And they are not. Yeah.
It involves standing up for yourself and standing up for what you believe in, and hold dear.
Yeah. There's the I don't know. We'll keep attaching analogies onto this, but I can physically show up somewhere, but I can also mentally and emotionally and spiritually show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be present, and I can be there for that.
Yes.
The physical part of it is only like, I mean, even if it sounds, philosophical and,
woohoo witchcrafty.
Yeah, woohoo witchcrafty. Like everybody can think of an experience where somebody's just like not like has checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just not, they're effectively a body, and they're yet less than useless.
Mm-hmm.
That they're there in the first place. It would be like, it would have been better if they weren't there at all. And yeah, they're physically there, but mentally, emotionally, and in some cases spiritually, they are not there.
Right.
So when I show up, that is me in all faucets. Like I am there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a way that I hadn't thought about it before, but that's a way that I think I enjoy thinking about it now. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that was a great time. What do you think?
I really look forward to hearing anybody that's willing to share. I just like hearing other people's experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and if anybody else has any, like, I don't care what it is. It's like I said, I don't. If anybody's doing anything, that's what makes me happy. Any other spiritual experiences and how that looks like in folks' lives, I so want to hear it. It doesn't matter if I have like if either of us might disagree on if it constitutes a spiritual experience or not. I'm just so interested to hear, what that looks like in other people's lives. Like Bryan talked about, and I agree with him. Don't get me wrong. That's why I brought it up in the first place. But like his enjoyment of motorcycles, like when somebody has that experience with something, I want to know about it, because that is like when they care about something that much, like that's just a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want. If anybody that's willing to share what a spiritual experience or spiritual connection or anything like that looks for them, please do.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out. Most of you have our phone numbers.
Yep. That's true.
Hopefully one day most of our fan base won't have our phone numbers. That'll be a cool time.
Yeah, that is also a goal, yeah.
But everybody that's listening has access to our Instagram, which I do receive notifications on. So private message us and let us know. Email us. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, we have an email.
Let us know somehow, because yeah, I mean that would be so awesome if we could just share like that. And the more people that buy into that, the more beneficial it will be. Because, like we say, what we do matters. And getting in touch with somebody and sharing a spiritual experience, that matters. It matters for us. It matters for who you tell. It matters for you. It's important.
Yeah. For me, yeah, no, I'm not going to get into that. I'm selfish, and I just want people to share their spiritual experiences because I want to hear about them.
Yeah.
Like it's borderline a spiritual experience for me when I get to listen to somebody talk about, like,
because you
Bryan
can feel
Bryan
it.
started talking. Yeah, Bryan started going into motorcycles, and there's an energy there, and I love hearing people talk about what they like as much as Bryan likes motorcycles, if that makes sense. Like when somebody is that into something, I don't care what it is. So please reach out to us. I would be so pleased. But thank you for listening to our two-parter on religion versus spirituality. Bryan, do you have a thanks question for us this week?
Yeah. What was your thanks question last time? We were supposed to start this episode with that.
Crap. I think it's, can you always be sure that you're not doing harm or something like that? And you said no.
Yeah. Yeah, because, So, right. Okay. I hesitated to say anything because that was my initial response, and I didn't know if that was my initial response last time.
Yeah.
So to explain that a little bit, I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. There's just so many freaking human beings on this rock.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot tell you how many times in the past month where I've accidentally hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah.
Like, I think yeah. Even if you boarded yourself up in a cardboard box and lived under a bridge, you'd still be hurting people because you're, like we were talking about, you're not showing up for everybody in your life at that point.
Yeah. Well, and even even on the most surface level of terms, now you're just annoying some guy that has to deal with you being under a bridge now.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it's his job to make sure people aren't living in a box under a bridge.
Exactly.
Like you're still
the park rangers are going to have to get after you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm in full agreement.
Yeah. There's no way you can not offend anybody.
I think, again, going back to like I said, I tried to make this question a little bit topical, and my opinion of it is the thing that we lack is, full knowledge, since we're not in heaven. And from that comes natural harm. When we do something, when we make any action, when we don't have a comprehensive knowledge of everything, then that ripple effect is going to have consequences that we're not aware of. And it's impossible that it doesn't.
Right.
The nature of it is that's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why it's important to strive for the highest good you can conceive of.
Yes.
To really, truly, honestly have people's best interest at heart. I think that's the best chance you have at doing the least amount of harm. But focusing on doing the least amount of harm is not the right tactic.
Well, it's what you resist persists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look towards the energy that you want to pursue.
Yeah, focusing on what you don't want gets what you don't want. But focusing on what you do want, building something, making something that you do want, is a much, much faster way to get what you want.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of a decent segue into my Thunks question this week.
All right.
Can something stop not happening?
Wow. Oh, gosh. Okay. Say it one more time, and then probably a couple more times after that.
Okay. Can something stop not happening?
Yes.
All right, and we're going to pick up with that next week, all right?
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Remember, folks, please don't believe anything we say.
Most certainly not. Adios.